The number 2 BYU Cougars pay a visit to the heart of Phoenix, Arizona for this MPSF conference matchup as the Grand Canyon University Lopes will take on the BYU Cougars. Welcome inside the GCU Arena and happy Valentine's Day, everybody. I'm Kyle Borg alongside Jack O'Hara. And Jack, the Lopes are coming off a one-game road trip where they took on the USD Trojans.
Well, Kyle, it seems like every time you look at their schedule, there's a 3-0 sweep placed in the win column. And like you mentioned, just to your credit right there, USC picking up a 3-0 loss at the hands of the Lopes. And of course, that's all thanks to Hugo Fisher's 17 kills. Wasn't really close in each of the first 3 sets. The Trojans only lost the first set by 4, but the Lopes were able to take care of business with back-to-back 7-point wins to seal the deal.
Well, BYU comes into this one with a perfect 12-0 record. They're going to be a tough test for the Lopes here this evening.
Well, we were talking to Coach Worley before the game, Kyle, and I think this one's been circled on their calendars for quite some time. And I know we've been saying this all spring long when it comes to all athletics, but Kyle, something's got to give tonight. I mean, the Lopes are obviously red hot right now. They haven't lost a set in 3 weeks. They haven't lost a match in 5 weeks. And again, BYU, of course, they haven't lost a match all season long. They're 12-0 this season. Will home court advantage help? I mean, we'll see. The Cougars Nation is known to travel pretty well, and we've seen their fan base make the trip to Phoenix in past years. It's a packed house here tonight. They're going to be just as loud as the Havocs in this one. So as far as it seems, you won't have a clear advantage for either side here tonight.
Well, as we get prepared for first serve, we will send you right down to the floor as we are getting ready for a prayer anthem and then the starting lineups.
Dear Father, thank you for this day, Lord. Thank you for allowing us to come here and enjoy the wonderful sport of volleyball. Lord, we ask you to keep us safe tonight, the players, the coaches, the fans, and the cheerleaders. Let's have a great game, and we give this day to you. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Fans, please remain standing as we honor our nation with the playing of the national anthem. The Star-Spangled Banner will be performed this evening by your very own Thundering Herd Pep Band under the direction of the Professor, Dr. Paul Cook, and tonight his associate, Vanessa Smith. And now, ladies and gentlemen, let's meet the starting lineup for the visiting BYU Cougars. At outside hitter, a 6'9" sophomore, number 1, Davide Gardini. At opposite hitter, a 6'4" sophomore, number 2, Alex Asu. At setter, a 6'4" senior, number 3, Will Stanley. At outside hitter, a senior, number 11, Zach Eschenberg. At libero, 5'8" sophomore, number 12, Mitchell Worthington. At middle blocker, a 6'9" junior, Felipe Jabrito Fejira. And at middle blocker, a 6'9" senior, number 18, Mickey Yahauhe Einen. The Cougars are led by head coach Sean Olmstead. He's assisted by Devin Young and Micah Naone. Freshman from Carlsbad, California, number 5, Hampton Gianni. At libero, a 5'10" junior from Keahu, Hawaii, number 6, Avery Enriquez. At center, a 6'7" sophomore from Haines City, Florida, number 8, Heath Hughes. At middle blocker, a 6'7" redshirt junior from Santa Barbara, California, number 10, Ian McClain. At outside hitter, a 6'5" sophomore from Carlsbad, California, number 11, Christian Jenkins. At middle blocker, a 6'7" senior from West Palm Beach, Florida, number 18, Caleb Blazer. And at opposite hitter, a 6'8" redshirt sophomore from Verviers, Belgium, number 19, Hugo Fischer. The Lopes are led by head coach Matt Worley. He's assisted by Keith Smith, Andrew McCall, and Dennis Flowers.
Well, Jack, last season's meeting between these two squads here in Phoenix was nothing short of electric. And there's no love lost here on Valentine's Day between these two teams, as last season on April the 4th, BYU came into Antelope Gymnasium and the Lopes beat them 3-2 in that thrilling 5-set match.
Well, I'd say it was pretty intense, Kyle. And don't forget, BYU was up 2-1 going into set number 4. The Lopes were able to battle back, and don't you think that the Cougars forgot that? They are the number 2 in the nation as of right now, 12-0. They are the visitors. They do have, I would say, an advantage when it comes to the fans in the crowd. Like we mentioned, Cougars Nation travels well. I'd say that they have the advantage here against the Havocs early on before the opening tip-off here. And don't forget, the Cougars, despite being the number 2 team in the nation, having their fans here on the road, they're going to want. This is probably going to be the most satisfying win if they're able to pull this one out tonight here in Phoenix.
Well, to recap those starters for you, as GCU is going to start with the first serve. For the Lopes, it's going to be Heath Hughes, Christian Jenke, Caleb Blazer, Camden Gianni, Hugo Fischer, and Avery Enriquez, the libero, as we are underway with Heath Hughes. He'll set one up. That's going to go right outside to Davide Gardini, and it's going to be kept alive, and Enriquez will get a back set to a tip from Gianni, and it's going to go back to Gardini, blocked by the Lopes. And that point's going to go to the Lopes. They're going to say it touched Gardini. And, of course, here in the GCU Arena, no instant replay review challenge like they have up at BYU that they implemented last season. And then the starters for BYU, like we mentioned, number 1, Davide Gardini, number 2, Alex Asu, number 3, Will Stanley, number 11, Zach Eschenberg, number 12, Mitchell Worthington, number 18, Mickey Yanihainen, as Gardini will send that one down for his first kill of the evening. And the final starter, number 16, Felipe G. Brito Fiera for BYU.
Well, notice right away, Kyle Davide Gardini getting the hot hand on both of those possessions. Of course, not coming away with the point the first time around, but don't mind if I do. Second time around, gets on the board. He now has 175 kills, which leads BYU this season.
Back row, Janke off the top of the block. And the Lopes back on top 2-1. And we were talking with Coach Worley, like you mentioned in the pregame, Jack, before this one, and he mentioned that about 70% of the balls are going to Davide Gardini and Gabby Garcia Fernandez, who I do not see on the BYU bench or in the starting lineup here this evening. So without Gabby Garcia Fernandez, it'll be interesting to see who takes over that secondary role for BYU, as that one will be blocked, but Blazer and Janke can't find it, and we're knotted up at 2.
Well, definitely a coup there, like you mentioned, for the Lopes, not having him in that starting lineup. It'll be interesting to see if we see him later on in this one, maybe in a few moments, give or take. We don't know. But Davide, of course, is going to get that ball. We mentioned the 175 kills, which by far leads this BYU offense as they now take the lead here, kind of catching the Lopes off by surprise there. Both Lopes points so far as well have caught BYU's defense by surprise as well. So both defenses trying to figure out and feel it in each other's offenses early on in this one. But again, you mentioned the hot hand going to Gardini. The Lopes going to try and find Christian Janke.
Janke right to that back corner, and or they're going to say it just missed, it looked like. And Coach Worley wants to have a word. So the score right now stands 4-2 BYU, as Asu will serve yet again for BYU. BYU comes into this one a perfect 12-0 and 2-0 in MPSF conference play. As that's going to be a big service ace for Asu, and BYU quickly up 3 points here, 5-2 on the Lopes.
Well, it's just what you want if you're that Cougars offense. 4-0 scoring run right off the bat on this road trip. Again, a very important game for BYU. They are ranked number 2, but you know they want this win after coming up short a little bit last year. And that is a big coup right there for the Lopes, trying to get back in this game, trying to capitalize on their opponents' offensive mistakes. Again, first service error of the night from BYU.
10 of the 12 Cougars wins are against ranked opponents this season, as the Lopes have one ranked win against number 9 Stanford a couple of weeks ago here at GCU. That one was in the Antelope Gymnasium. So the Lopes, 25 votes this week in the top 15 poll. Not quite ranked, but they are right there as they enter this one on an 8-game win streak, the third longest in the nation, behind BYU and Hawaii, who both have win streaks of 12. That one outside, going to be blocked, but kept alive by Janke. Hughes, back row, Gianni. Big swing, and Gardini's going to be able to run it down and send it to Asu. Asu well long, and the Lopes back within 2 now, striking distance. It's 6-4, and this first set, Jack, is going to go a long way for sending momentum for the rest of this match.
Well, like we mentioned in the pregame, Kyle, the Lopes haven't lost a set in nearly 3 weeks, coming on January 24th here at home. You know they don't want to lose this first set, setting the momentum here at home against BYU, arguably their biggest test since Hawaii in that opening series.
Hugo Fisher, service ace, his 15th, service ace on the season. He's second on this Lopes team in service aces, and that is one of the definite strong spots for the Lopes, is that service game and that service pressure. That's the other thing Coach Worley mentioned, is that's how they're going to be in these matches. And another service ace, back to back. Hugo Fisher, cue the yes chant from the Havocs.
I was going to say, trying to get in on that yes chant too, Kyle. I mean, Hugo Fisher, we mentioned the 17 kills against USC last time around. Didn't have a service ace. He's already got 2 here tonight, and trying to give the Lopes the lead, trying to once again take momentum away from the Cougars early.
The MPSF Conference Offensive Player of the Week, Hugo Fisher, tying this one back up at 6. Enriquez back in now as Hughes will set Fisher. It's going to go straight to the floor. Off of the block attempt by BYU, and the Lopes regain the lead. It's 7-6.
BYU, we have ourselves a problem. Hugo Fisher is finding his stride here. Those 2 service aces, picking up another kill. I wouldn't want to be BYU's defense right now if you're going up against Hugo Fisher.
Service ace number 3 for Hugo Fisher on this run for the Lopes, and they're up by 2 and a timeout. BYU. Lopes up 8-6 as they force a timeout. A big run for the Lopes. Stick around. We'll be right back right here on GCU TV.
Curiosity fuels you. So when you're ready for a fulfilling new career, let your curiosity fuel that change. Grand Canyon University's online degree programs in technology make it convenient for you to achieve your dream. GCU teaches you how to plan for innovation. By applying that knowledge to today's most challenging problems, you're helping to build a better tomorrow. Find your purpose at GCU, where advanced technologies drive education. Private, Christian, affordable. Visit gcu.edu/online.
Back inside the GCU Arena where Hugo Fisher has sparked a 5-0 scoring run for the Lopes with 3 service aces so far, and it's 8-6 GCU. And Jack, after the first battle of this match here in the opening set, how can the Lopes continue to keep the pressure on BYU and ultimately come away with a win with the Sanderson Ford? 3 keys to the game.
Well, Kyle, the number 1 key is going to be grit. We've already seen grit on both sides of the ball here tonight. BYU going on that 4-0 scoring run to take a 3-point lead. The Lopes said we could do it one better, a 5-0 scoring run. You got to scratch, you got to claw in order to take this game here tonight. And then end of the road. Neither team has lost a game in nearly 5 weeks, Kyle. We were talking to Coach before the game. Didn't want me to spoil that, potentially. But it's going to be the end of the road for one of these win streaks here tonight for either side. We'll see if it's BYU as we get ready. It'll be interesting to see what BYU is capable of after that first timeout. We'll see if they are able to change momentum, and that'll help matters there.
Fisher just misses clipping that back line. Very close for his 4th service ace already here in set number 1. But BYU regains possession here and control. It's 8-7 Lopes. And we talk about the winning streaks. Let's talk about the individual sets for these two teams so far on the season, as the Lopes will go with Fisher yet again, just going to miss, no touch, and we're knotted up at 8.
A little too much power there from Hugo Fisher. Obviously, the hot hand for the Lopes right now. He's confident down there, and again, just a little too much on that one, getting a little too excited here as this team, again, trying to, again, separate themselves a little bit here, trying to scratch and claw, using that grit early on in this game to take the first set, because the first set may determine who walks away with a victory in this one.
Absolutely, and the Lopes, in sets this season, they are 27-8 in these individual sets. They've only dropped 8, and 6 of those came in 2 games to open up the season against Harvard, where they got swept, and then swept against number 1 Hawaii. BYU also only dropping 8 sets on the season, but 36 wins for them, as that one will go off the top of the block, and Enriquez pushes it in the middle. McLean gets the kill off the top of the block. Very nicely done, Ian McLean and the Lopes back on top by a pair.
Well, we've been talking about Hugo Fisher and Christian Janke at the top there. You can't forget about Ian McLean, kind of the sneaky one on that Lopes offense, as he comes out of nowhere there to put the Lopes up by 2. And again, we mentioned the service errors. They're going to kill both sides. If the Lopes are able to minimize those service errors early on in this game, they'll have a pretty good chance of contending with the number 2 team in the nation. But the Lopes are going to be shooting themselves in the foot here early on. BYU, you know that they're going to take advantage.
That one back row, Fisher, out of bounds. Hugo Fisher, kill number 2 in his 3rd attempt. And the Lopes up by a pair.
We saw Davide Gardini trying to find the corner there, just a little bit to the left of the line, which results in a point for the Lopes. As, again, if they can go on a bit of a run, a 5-0 scoring run like we saw moments ago, that timeout killed that rally. As you see right there, BYU taking advantage, finding a hole.
Downey Heinen in the middle there, getting a big kill. So 10-11 is the score. Lopes still up by 1. As momentum keeps shifting back and forth between these two sides. Zach Eschenberg, he'll go back to serve now for the Cougars. That one, Janke gets a good dig out. Outside, Gianni, it falls. Camden Gianni on the board for kill number 1 of the game for him. That puts him at a kill number 101 on the season, as he leads this Lopes team after coming back from that redshirt season last year, as Heath Hughes will send it away. Outside for Asu. They're going to say it got touched at the top of the net there off the block attempt by Gianni. So point Cougars, as Yauni Heinen will go back to serve it away now.
Well, you definitely know Camden Gianni wants to make an impact in this one after seeing his team win a barn burner last year inside the Antelope Gymnasium. Not holding anything back there. That last kill kind of ate up Mitchell Worthington, as you can see the libero for BYU, but again, just getting a hand on that one and right there, trying to put a little too much on it, but Asu right there for the rejection.
Gianni trying to get back-to-back kills, but this BYU team blocks a lot of balls at the net. They are tops in the nation, third in the nation to be exact, in blocks per set. So you know, you got to be careful of those tall bodies in the front for BYU, as Hughes will run it down. He'll go for Gianni again. He finds some open space, and it'll be kept alive. And that's going to be an illegal set there, double touch on BYU. And the Lopes get it right back.
Well, we've seen some key mistakes on both sides so far. BYU, of course, with the double touch right there. We've seen a few service errors on each side as well offensively. And luckily, to both offenses' credits here, we're all knotted up at 12. It looks like we got an injury down there on the court. We'll see. It is a BYU. Might be Mitchell Worthington down there on the floor.
I can't quite read the number. It does appear to be like he's going to get up and going to need some help walking off. That appears to be number 16, Felipe Gibrito Fiera for BYU, as he's going to be helped off the court. So we hope he is okay and is able to continue, if not tonight, in BYU's next match coming up in a couple of days. So now BYU may or may not be down a pair of players here. As, again, no Gabby Garcia Fernandez for BYU that I can see out there tonight. So it does look like we're going to get a replacement. It's going to be Brandon Obender, number 17 there for BYU. And now Gianni's going to step back. He'll serve it away with a 1-point Lopes lead.
Well, tough break there for Felipe. Came into this one with 62 kills on the season. And you mentioned Gabby Garcia Fernandez. We have yet to see his presence here tonight, as the Lopes going to take the lead on that last point. Now they lead it by 2, excuse me.
So Lopes up 14-12. They'll get it back. Gianni just unloaded a rocket of a serve, but it was well done and kept alive by that back row for the Cougars, and now that one going to be straight into the net. Another service error for the Lopes. They're 4th on the match. BYU has 2 here in the opening set. 14-13 is the score. Normally, when the first team reaches 15, we'd have immediate timeout, but since BYU was forced to call a timeout earlier, we will keep playing until we get another timeout. That one's long and out of bounds. Asu can't keep it in, and the Lopes go back up by 2, and it looks like GCU being able to keep a comfortable, at least a minimum of a 2-point lead early on here as this set starts to wind down.
Well, both offenses seem to be shooting themselves in the foot, like I mentioned, which has kept both offenses in this game. As you recall earlier on in the set, BYU going on that 4-0 scoring run to give themselves a 4-point advantage early, then the Lopes counter with that 5-0 scoring run. But neither team really able to break away just yet, Kyle. Again, we're still about halfway through this set, and I think it's safe to say whoever wins this first set is going to have the clear advantage.
And a lift going to be called on the Cougars. And BYU down by 3 now. Number 2 team in the nation being tested here in the opening set. But of course for this Lopes team, nothing new playing a ranked opponent, as pretty much every conference game for them is against a ranked opponent. And last year they went on a huge run, rattling off, I believe, 5 straight victories against ranked opponents at one point last season.
Well, it was a very impressive streak, considering the majority of your team were freshmen. Again, only 2 graduating seniors, Will Schwob being one of them, Alex Shmalev being the other. A very impressive showing from that freshman bunch. Now a bunch of sophomores here, a sophomore bunch trying to get it together here with the additions of Hugo Fisher, of course, and Camden Gianni back in that starting lineup.
Gianni lays out for that, but can't quite keep it alive. As lead is cut down to 1, 16-15. Lopes still have the lead. The last time BYU was here, they were ranked number 11 in the nation. That one not going to get over the net, and another service error. Gardini can't get it up and over, and it's 17-15 now GCU as Enriquez back in now for Udall, it looks like, as Coach Worley all season long has used both his liberos in multiple sets, and he's done just that here in the opener.
And once again, BYU going on that 2-0 run. Finds a way to shoot themselves in the foot again with a service error. Now the Lopes have an opportunity to take charge once again.
Nicely done by Gianni and Jenke to keep it alive. Enriquez gets a hand to it. Gianni falling over, picks it up, and McLean sends it over. And now BYU will attack from the outside. Enriquez can't quite keep that one up in a great play, but BYU comes away with the point, and you can hear the roar of the crowd getting louder and louder, that BYU section on the opposite side of us.
Cougars Nation, Kyle, they travel well, but you got to give credit to where credit's due. Camden Gianni, don't mind if I do, on the ground, on his back, able to keep that one in play defensively for the Lopes. But of course, that one just eating up Avery and Greases there as BYU continues to scratch and claw in this first set. Again, only a 1-point game. Something's got to give. We mentioned in the pregame, Kyle, that something's got to give in this game with neither team coming away with a loss in nearly 5 weeks.
Well, last season, these two teams alternated sets with BYU taking the first and the third as McLean sends it down. McLean puts the Lopes back up by a 2, and it's 18-16. And then, of course, the Lopes winning sets 4 and 5 last season before ultimately taking that match. And when the Lopes traveled to Utah to take on BYU before that match last season, BYU did come away with a sweep. So both sides used to playing a ton of matches against each other. As that one goes into the net, Jenke can't get that one over. And it's back to a 1-point lead.
You know, the way this set's been going, Kyle, I wouldn't be shocked if it came down to a service error or a defensive mistake when we come to point number 25 here in the first set. It's just the way that this first set has gone for both defenses.
Gianni gonna get a big kill. Camden Gianni, 19-17, Lopes with the lead. As it looks like Tanner Petrel's gonna come in for Ian McLean, and he'll go back to the service line. So one of the 3 setters on this Lopes roster played a lot of minutes last year. Heath Hughes has been the main setter this year, but Tanner Petrel been used a lot in that service game. And the all-time series between these two teams is 1-3 for the Lopes, so BYU with a 2-game advantage after finally dropping their first ever match to the Lopes last season. So both teams looking to either extend their win streak or get back on track and add on to that series lead, as the Lopes, you mentioned, Jack, have not lost a match in 4 weeks. Well, they haven't lost a set in 3.
Well, we don't want to jinx that, Kyle. We were talking to Coach Worley before the game, was getting pretty angry with me, didn't want me to jinx it. But again, back and forth, mano-a-mano between these two sides. It seems like neither team here offensively can go on a scoring run here late to try and, again, put that nail in the coffin to take that first set.
It's tied up at 19 right now as Eschenberger, the senior, will serve it for BYU. Hughes gonna get an extra tap over the net there to help it as Gardini goes high over the net to find the floor, and BYU regains a 1-point advantage. It's 20-19, and it looks like Coach Worley is gonna wanna talk some things over. He's gonna take his first time out of the set. So BYU regains a 1-point advantage here on the Lopes. It's 20-19. We're winding down set number 1. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back right here on GCU TV.
You have a foundation of strong values. You belong where your passions come to life. Grand Canyon University's online degree program in cybersecurity makes it convenient for you to join the newest front in keeping your community safe. GCU teaches you how to secure and protect a virtual environment. Join the growing field of cybersecurity.
Find your purpose at GCU, where advanced technologies drive education. Private, Christian, affordable. Visit gcu.edu/online.
We are back inside the GCU arena as it is a 20-19 BYU Cougars lead. And Jack, a very, very back and forth affair. Neither side gaining a clear advantage here in set number 1.
Well, we've seen some good things and we've seen some bad things, Kyle. Obviously, the man of the hour for BYU was always going to be Davide Gardini, and we saw him with those impeccable pair of eyes finding an opening on the floor right in front of Christian Jenke for his second kill to give BYU the lead 20-19. But since the beginning, we saw a 4-0 scoring run from BYU, capitalized by a 5-0 scoring run from GCU. Now BYU on a 3-0 scoring run of their own after the Lopes took a 2-point advantage, 19-17. Both offenses trying to put the final nail in the coffin, trying to get on that final run to set the tone here going into set number 2. We'll see if it's BYU, we'll see if it's the Lopes.
Service going to be kept alive as it clipped the net. Going to go to Fisher, block, kept alive, Blazer, and Udall's got to send it over. And another attack coming from BYU. That's outside. Udall can't get there. Asu gets a kill. 2-point BYU advantage. And last season, Davide Gardini had a career high. It still stands as his career high here in Phoenix with 26 kills. So the Lopes know exactly how dangerous he can be. But look out as Asu now just picked up kill number 3 to lead all leaders here in the kill category here in the opening set. That one right at Udall and a good pass to Hughes. Backside, Jenke can't get it over the net. And a point will put BYU up 22-19 here in set number 1.
Well, Christian Jenke had the power there, just didn't have the trajectory with that ball, slamming that one straight into the net, giving BYU that 3-point advantage here. And this is where BYU wants to end things right here, Kyle. You're on a 5-0 scoring run. This defense not really confident right now for the Lopes, as Camden Gianni obviously has something else to say about that. But again, that defense stepping up for BYU in a big way as this Lopes defense looks to solve the offense.
And a couple of great plays made by the Cougars to keep it alive. And now the Lopes looking to kill again. Jenke will push. Dug up and kept alive. Yanni Heinen can't put it over. Stanley outside for Gardini. Out of bounds, the Lopes pick up the point, and it's 22-20 in favor of the Cougars, and that will end BYU's 5-0 scoring run, as the Lopes were able to go on a 5-0 scoring run earlier in this one.
Well, there's that grit I was talking about before, Kyle. A tremendous defensive display from the Cougars, able to keep that one up. You got to give a lot of credit there to Alex Asu, able to keep that one up in the air, but in the end, the Lopes showing a little bit more grit than BYU. BYU returning the favor there, though, as they look to end this one 2 points away now from setting that tone early on in front of Cougars Nation here on the road.
2 points away are the Cougars here, 23-20, as we are closing in final stages of set number 1. And another timeout taken here as the Lopes down by 3, their biggest deficit of the evening so far. We'll be right back with the final couple of points here in set number 1 right here on GCU TV.
We needed one more member on our roster. Streets of New York is proud to announce Grand Canyon University to our winning team. We are now the official pizza of GCU. Go Lopes.
Welcome back inside GCU Arena in the heart and soul of Phoenix, Arizona, on the campus of Grand Canyon University. Happy Valentine's Day, everybody. If you're just joining us, it's been a very, very entertaining first set. I'm Kyle Borg alongside Jack O'Hara. And Jack, both sides have played a pretty well first set here for this one.
Well, if you're Cougars Nation or if you're the Havocs, if you're in the GCU Arena alone, this is exactly what you expected from both clubs. Mano y mano, neck and neck, a seesaw affair here in set number 1 as the Lopes look to upset the number 2 team in the nation. They're going to have to climb back here in set number 1. We saw BYU. We mentioned that both teams had to go on a bit of a scoring run here late as it was neck and neck throughout the entire set. BYU going on that 5-0 scoring run with Alex Asu leading the charge with his 3 kills on 5 attempts. Trying to, again, put that nail in the coffin, as I ever so put it, here in set number 1.
See if they can do it. 23-20, Cougars lead. Hughes for Gianni, big swing and a huge block by BYU, their second of the set. And now the BYU fans up on their feet here inside the GCU Arena.
Well, this is something we're not used to, Kyle. It's something that the Havocs aren't used to, getting outdone here by Cougars Nation.
As it looks like the Gator Chomp is going on over there, but a service error.
And that's exactly what the Lopes need late in this one, as It is match point here for the Cougars. A big service error. Maybe this could turn momentum around for the Lopes. Again, trying to cut that lead here. Got to at least knot it up at 24.
Just got to put the ball in play right now if you're Camden Gianni and the Lopes, down by 3, and he does that well. Up to the net, Jakey puts it down, and the Lopes back within 2, 24-22. Cougars have the lead, and Gianni will serve it yet again. And only one set in their one meeting here in Phoenix last year went to extra points, and that was the second set, 27-25, that the Lopes ended up winning. So Gianni again sends a rocket over. They'll go right to the middle off of Blazer's hands, and that is Brandon Oberender to end set number 1, 25-22. BYU takes the opening set of this match and will go into set number 2 with a little bit more momentum, but the Lopes right there within striking distance.
Well, this game is far from over, Kyle. We saw it go back and forth, neck and neck throughout that entire first set. BYU, of course, going on that 5-0 scoring run late to try and pull ahead, trying to find some separation there late against this Lopes offense. And like you mentioned, Brandon Oberender delivering there to put the final nail in the coffin in set number 1. And we've seen BYU's offense distribute the ball on offense pretty fairly to this point. Alex Asu with 3 kills, Oberender 3 kills. Davide Gardini, who we thought was going to be the heavy horse in this one, only has 2 kills on 6 attempts. We'll see if this Lopes offense, backed by Camden Gianni, Ian McLean, and Christian Janke, are able to do the same in set number 2.
Well, the stage is set. Set number 2 on the way. BYU has a 1-set advantage on the host, Grand Canyon University Lopes. We'll be right back with set number 2 and the rest of this match when we come back right here on GCU TV.
Wait, let's actually do it right.
Hi guys, what's up? Have you guys ever heard of Ask GCU?
I have heard of it.
I have before, yeah.
What is your favorite Ask GCU episode?
Well, I should go to GCU.
Probably the best food place.
You know, we all love food. Yeah. So probably that episode.
What's the best way to drink a stampede?
Go Carts!
What is your favorite Ask GCU episode?
All of them.
Yeah, thank you.
My favorite episode is probably where they asked about the Chick-fil-A line.
The breakfast one's pretty good.
The one where you guys talk about the best places to have breakfast on campus and everyone said Chick-fil-A.
That's the best breakfast I've ever had.
The Welcome Week episode.
The Welcome Week one, that one's really clutch.
The Welcome Week, where Brittany jumps around into people's cars and asks them questions. Remember, kids, don't get into people's vehicles.
I just really like you guys.
I just like it when you're in it.
You too.
Tweet hashtag AskGCU to get your question featured.
Welcome back to the GCU Arena as BYU took set number 1, 25-22, led by Alex Asu with 3 and Braden Oberender with 3 as well. Lopes doing a good job limiting Davide Gardini to just 2 kills on 6 total attempts. He's hitting -167, and the Lopes have 4 with 2 kills. That is Gianni, McLean, Janke, and Fisher. But the big stat there is Hugo Fisher, 3 service aces in that opening set.
Well, we mentioned the dominance that Hugo Fisher has displayed over this recent hot streak from the Lopes, coming off that 17-kill performance against the Trojans up in Pasadena, California last weekend. But of course, only 2 kills on 6 total attempts so far here tonight. He did have those 2 service aces, like you mentioned, Kyle. Seemed like the hot hand early on, him and Christian Janke, but they have since kind of sizzled down. As you mentioned, Davide Gardini, kind of the heavy hunter for that BYU offense as well. Really hasn't gotten things going, just 2 kills on 6 attempts. Both offenses kind of spreading things out offensively when it comes to kills and distribution of the ball, excuse me. But again, the Lopes looking to at least even up play here in set number 2. Remember, we talked about set number 1. Whoever won set number 1 was going to have the clear advantage moving forward. And with BYU, with Cougar Nation in the house, they have the full advantage here and momentum heading into set number 2. Lopes looking to change that.
So this will be Zach Eschenberg to lead us off here in just a moment with BYU. But we talked about the fan attendance and the travel for BYU. Well, BYU second in the nation so far in attendance. They've had a total of 22,000 fans come through their doors in just 6 home matches with an average of 3,801. So that one will get over, and they're gonna feed Blazer, and that's gonna hit the ground. Kayla Blazer immediately.
Dare I say a laser from Kayla Blazer.
The Lopes attendance through just 4 home matches totals 3,593 fans with an average of 898 as Jakey sends it down, and the Lopes quickly up 2-0 here in the second set of this one. And there is plenty more than that fan attendance for GCU here tonight. Of course, they normally play in the much smaller venue of Antelope Gymnasium, but here tonight I would say it looks pretty much like a basketball game here in the Arena Jack.
It doesn't get any more packed than this, Kyle. We see Air Janky making an appearance, and we see him make another appearance right there. Just a little too much mustard on that one. And that'll put BYU on the board here in set number 2.
Yauni Heinen will head back for BYU now to serve it as they get their first point on the error by Janky, and it's 2-1 as Janky will get a pass away. Hughes, return pass for Janky, give and go with the tip. Going to be kept alive on a couple of diving digs from BYU, and now Hughes will feed Gianni in the back row. Going to deflect out of bounds into that BYU bench, and the Lopes up 3-1 as Enriquez checks back in.
Well, it didn't look like Will Stanley was quite ready for that one off the hand right there. A rocket from Camden Gianni, and we mentioned Gianni going to want to make a big impact in this one after not being able to compete in that showdown last year in the Antelope Gymnasium. Already has himself 3 kills on 11 attempts.
That one cross court from Asu as Janky and McLean both went up and thought about blocking that one and then brought their hands back down as Udall checks back in. It's 3-2 GCU, and you can see Coach Worley over there talking to Avery Enriquez about that last play, and Coach Worley started this match with a jacket on. He's got his sleeves rolled up and no jacket on at this point here, and we're only in set number 2. That one going to be tipped at the net and now kept alive back row. Finding the open floor is Zach Eschenberg, and we're knotted up at 3.
Well, it's definitely intense inside the GCU arena. You can tell from Coach Worley and his body language there. But again, Alex Asu leading the charge for BYU and that offense with those 4 kills. Almost adding another one right there. As once again, Christian Janky just a little too much oomph on that one. Getting a little too excited here early on as just like that, BYU on a 3-0 scoring run. We mentioned those scoring runs in set number 1. They had a 4-0 scoring run early on and then a 5-0 scoring run to kind of seal the deal there in set number 1.
So serve back to BYU as they overtake it, but tied back up at 4 on another service error from the Cougars. That'll end a 3-0 scoring run as the ace leader Janky will head back to serve it away for the Lopes, and Christian Janky ranks in the top 10 nationally in aces per set with just under 1. As that one gets over, and Gardini will put that one down to the floor. His 3rd kill, BYU up by 5. The Lopes are 5th in the nation in aces per set with just under 2. Janky is 2nd in aces per set this season. And that one will get down. Lopes tie it back up at 5.
There are those service errors that we were talking about in set number 1. Kyle, the Lopes have to take advantage when it comes to these errors offensively from BYU. We've seen them go on those runs. And again, shooting themselves in the foot in a big way, ending that 4-0 scoring run as they get right back on track there. Alex Asu, we mentioned his name before, kill number 5 on the night to give BYU that 6-5 advantage. And now BYU once again looking to take charge after that 4-0 scoring run, looking to do the same here early on in this set. It was back and forth in set number 1, trying to take the clear advantage as we are still in the early stages of set number 2.
And another point back to the Lopes. It's 6-6, so GCU able to stay in it, trying to capitalize on those BYU errors. But so far in this second set, the defense a little shaky as Heath Hughes will head back to serve. We'll see if he can get one down. And a quick touch by Will Stanley You like to see that out of your setter if you're BYU, but not if you're the Lopes, as Stanley will head back to serve. It's 7-6.
Well, no look there from Will Stanley. I think he caught everybody in this arena off guard with that one, Kyle. Getting on the board with his first kill of the night, and that'll look to spark BYU's offense here, trying to limit those mistakes again against this Lopes defense.
Right to Hugo Fisher. You got to find the hot hand if you're the Lopes, and right now Hugo Fisher has been on fire as of late. Mentioned those kills against USC last weekend. He had 17 with no errors, and that's why he's the MPSF Offensive Player of the Week.
And again, that's only his third kill so far here tonight, but if you can get Hugo Fisher rolling, the Lopes are in pretty good shape as they look to even up this set going into set number 3.
Looking to find Fisher again off a set from Enriquez, but can't do it, as Hughes will have to dig that one out. Enriquez again going for Fisher. That time he can take a bigger swing at it. No touch call, then it's 8-7 BYU as they take advantage of that one, and now Udall checks back in for Enriquez.
Well, it's kind of a mirror image to this point of set number 1 here in set number 2. Both offenses kind of struggling to go on those runs, trying to go on those streaks to separate themselves from their opponents, as once again, BYU looking to take control there, as it looked like Christian Janke going all in there, a big swing and a miss, with BYU getting the big rejection.
It looked like Janke was trying to power that one through the block of BYU, and then somehow it ricocheted and hit a Lope on the way out of bounds. So point BYU 9-7 again for Janke. Can't find the floor with that one. Blazer gets his hands to it. And now going for Gardini, blocked by the face of Blazer, it looked like. In the middle, Hughes can't keep it alive, and BYU up by 3.
And again, the more BYU goes on these streaks, the more Cougar Nation gets riled up here in the GCU arena. You know, still trying to get used to the fact that BYU has so many fans in this arena, rallying up this crowd. It seems like like you mentioned before, Kyle, a GCU men's basketball game with the Havocs.
Gianni took a big swing at that one. Gardini again finding the open space in the floor, and BYU being really able to attack the gaps of GCU thus far here in set number 2, and that's gonna force Coach Worley to take a timeout. It's 11-7. Cougars have the lead and a 1-set advantage over the Lopes. We'll be right back right here on GCU TV.
Do you like to create, collaborate, and solve problems? At Grand Canyon University, you can earn your advanced degree in computer programming, computer science, or information technology. Explore the world of data science or business analytics and change the way businesses operate. Embrace your patriotism or earn your Java certificate. Now's the time to make a change by building a career in one of these high-demand technology programs. Enroll today. Find your purpose at gcu.edu.
Back inside the GCU arena, BYU 11-7, 4-point lead in set number 2 here inside the GCU arena. BYU took set number 1, 25-22 over the Lopes, as Coach Worley just called a timeout to talk things over with his team, but BYU jacked 4-0 scoring run, and they have been really attacking the gaps in the Lopes defense.
Well, like I said, in set number 1, BYU was able to pull ahead with that late 5-0 scoring run early on in this set. He's already they're already forcing Coach Worley to use his first time out here in set number 1 with a big 4-0 scoring run, and you can't really pinpoint who's been the X factor for this offense for BYU. You can look at Alex Asu. He's got his 5 kills on 8 total attempts. We mentioned Davide Gardini being that black horse coming into this one with his 174 kills. Overall this season, he's only got 4 on 12 attempts so far, but they've done a nice job. Zach Eschenberg getting in on this party as well with those 3 kills. The Lopes still looking for their man to take charge here. We'll see if it's Hugo Fisher or somebody else.
Caleb Blazer, how about that? Out of nowhere in the middle, Caleb Blazer puts the Lopes back within 3, and now he's going to look to do some damage from the service line.
Well, la-di-da, Caleb Blazer, another laser from Blazer. He may look to be that guy here for the Lopes. A big time out there for Coach Worley, looking to change momentum for his offense.
Unable to dig that one out was Heath Hughes, and the Cougars go back up by 4. It's 12-8 as Udall comes in for Blazer. He had 6 huge blocks last year when these two teams met in Phoenix. He's got a pair of kills on 2 attempts already. That one floated well out of bounds, and another service error, and this is where the Lopes have got to take advantage. This is the 9th error for BYU as it goes to 12-9, 3-point Cougar lead as Hugo Fisher now will go back, look to add on to his ace total. He's got 3 as he picked up all of those in the opening set. And unfortunately can't get that one over.
Well, that's going to be the Achilles heel in this one for the Lopes, Kyle. BYU going on a bit of a run. Again, kind of shooting themselves in the foot, leaving room open for the Lopes, because that's been the biggest difference between a 3-point BYU lead and possibly a 6+ point lead for the Cougars in this game, given how this offense really hasn't gotten going for the Lopes. And another big offensive stab there for BYU, getting this crowd all riled up here on the road. But GCU's going to have to take advantage of these defensive mistakes and errors early on for BYU if they're going to want to have any contention here in set number 2.
And now Coach Worley looking to make something happen. He did this last year where he had some big substitutions, so it's going to be the backup setter, Oner Sakur. He's a bigger body up front for GCU, and David Keyshell, another hitter in there. So now it's Gianni Keyshell and Janke for the Lopes, along with McLean. So a lot of options for Sakur to pick out, and he's going to go for Keyshell right away, but it's going to be stuffed. And BYU up 15-9.
Well, the Lopes certainly have their backs against the wall now, down by 6. But you know, Coach Worley's got a lot of faith in his squad here as we enter the middle stages in set number 2. It's a must-win, you got to say, Kyle, for the Lopes, already down by 1. You don't want to go down 2-0 against the number 2 ranked team in the nation, even on your home court. So the defense looking to step up in a big way here. You got to give a lot of credit right here to the defense, keeping this one alive on both sides. Great rally from both the Cougars and the Lopes. Again, still trying to find that one man who's going to take that imaginary brass ring and try and give the Lopes a little bit of a push here late in set number 2.
Coach Worley having a word with the down official here after that one from Janke sailed well out of play. And it did look like we had a couple differing calls. I watched one of the line officials try and signal that it hit the antenna or somebody made contact with that antenna or the net. The up official did acknowledge it, but I'm not exactly sure what that call was going to be or who it was going to be against. So as it stands, BYU going to get that point. 16-9 is the score, and now it looks like we are going to have a conference between the 4 officials. So we did not have a stoppage in play, so look for it to probably be replayed, if anything, and we'll go from there as we get a brief conversation. So as it stands, still BYU point. Havoc's trying to get some life back into this building. It does look like it will stay BYU's point, 16-9. The Lopes energy in this arena has just kind of been sucked out here in set number 2 as Janke will feed Sakur for Keyshell again. Huge stuff by Stanley at the net and an 8-point BYU lead.
Well, David Keyshell right there, Kyle, trying to be a little too smart for BYU. And as you just saw, Will Stanley not having any of it, slamming that one, taking that one to the house, really taking no prisoners early on in this one for BYU's offense.
That time, Christian Janke's going to get a kill, his 4th in 16 attempts. And the Lopes back within 7, going to need a big run from GCU to get back in set number 2 and put some pressure on BYU and get this match back to even. And if the Lopes drop this one, it'll be a very tall mountain still left to climb. Janke unloads one into the net, 18-10, BYU.
Well, I think the Cougars and their fans, you see the finish line here in set number 2 up by 8, but the Lopes still hoping to once again trying to find that final push here, the final momentum boost late in set number 2. Who's going to be the man to step up, as you'd say David Keyshell once again trying to step up in a big way.
his first kill of the night. David Kieshel gets that one to fall through as Ian McLean will head back to serve. Still a 7-point BYU lead as most of this lower bowl here in the arena now has really filled up. So we are closing in on the final stages of set number 2. Stanley tries to go, but it's blocked by Gianni, and he gives him the Dikembe Mutombo finger wave as he turns back to celebrate with his teammates. Lopes down by 6.
Yeah, well, fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, ain't gonna happen again. Will Stanley was able to fool the Lopes moments ago with that swipe tag for the kill, his first and only kill. Tried it once more right there, and he got caught.
That one hit the lines judge on the foot. He is part of the floor, but I looked from our angle up here that he was out of play. But it'll go to BYU. 19-12 is the score. As now in the front row, it is Blazer, Sakur, and Kieshel. As Gianni gets that one, Sakur for Kieshel, this time blocked and out of play. Lopes get it back, 19-13. Trying to keep it as close as possible, but the Lopes run out of time to make a big run.
They're chipping away, down by 6. Like I mentioned, the Cougars could see the finish line here in set number 2. Lopes trying to play a little bit of catch-up.
Kieshel, big serve, kept alive outside for Eschenberg, out of bounds, no touch. 19-14, Lopes within 5. Got to go on a big run, get it to within 2 or 3 here, Jack, so you're still within striking distance. As Enriquez is back in, Kieshel will go to serve, trying to get a spark off the bench for the Lopes. Kieshel, a good serve. Gardini gets it away. Stanley outside. Eschenberg. Enriquez up, looking to stuff. Gianni is there. Stanley back for Eschenberg, blocked. Still with the Lopes now. Sakur and Gianni go, and it'll be with a point for BYU. Possibly a double touch, or someone made contact with the net. Not exactly sure what that call was for, but 20-14 is the lead. BYU has a 6-point advantage here in set number 2, looking to take a 2-0 advantage. Back for Gianni. Big swing out of bounds, misses that line, 21-14.
Well, what we're seeing here late, we saw it from Janke a few times moments ago, and we see it from Camden Gianni right there. The Lopes trying to put a little too much power in their kill attempts here against BYU's defense, trying to cut that lead in half. And again, just putting a little too much there outside the line there for Gianni, but they're going to chip into the lead right there.
That time Gianni gets it to fall. Lopes down by 6, 21-15 is the score. Now Gianni will be back to serve it for the Lopes. He just got to put it in play. Good things tend to happen when you do that. Havoc's in front of us in the band. They have their Lopes up, and Gianni serves it right into the net, 22-15.
And once again, I mentioned, Kyle, that's going to be the Achilles heel all night long for the Lopes. They're not going to be able to go on these runs if they keep shooting themselves in the foot. Another big service error there, allowing BYU to once again go on a potential final run here to make matters worse for the Lopes. We mentioned you didn't want to go down 2-0 to the number 2 team in the nation. Well, you might just have your backs against the wall here at home.
Christian Janke right there. He's going to get another kill. He's got 5 to lead the Lopes. 1 behind the kill leader, Asu, for the match. He's got 6. And Lopes back within 6 as Blazer will serve it now for the Lopes. Little float serve there, Stanley. Back outside, stuffed by the Lopes, but out of bounds. And now Udall will come back in as Blazer checks out. 23-16 is the score. Now a couple substitutions for BYU as well.
Well, even when they're firing on all cylinders, things just don't seem to be going right tonight for the Lopes against these BYU Cougars.
Sakur back set. Kieshel, huge kill, coming a long way for that one. And that's got to get the Lopes firing now. 17-23 is the score. Sakur will serve. And the Lopes just got to take momentum any way they can get it. And David Kieshel off the bench, he's got a pair of kills. Or 3 kills, excuse me, now, as Sakur serves that one away right for Gardini in the middle. Enriquez right there. Janke No touch. It looked like it might have hit a hand on the way through, and now set point for BYU. Lopes down 7, and BYU fans back on their feet, 24-17.
Well, Janke was banking on that touch there from Will Stanley. Doesn't get it. Way beyond the line, and once again, the Cougars looking to erupt here in Phoenix as their team looks to go up by 2. But once again, BYU hurting themselves as well with those service errors. I mentioned before, BYU could have wrapped this one up a long time ago if it wasn't for some of their offensive mistakes, keeping the Lopes in these games. And the Lopes, again, lurking in the shadows right now, down by 6. They're gonna have to go on a miracle run here. Christian Janke looking to start that right now.
10 service errors for the Cougars. Back row, right at Enriquez. Can't quite keep it alive. And just like that, BYU is up 2-0 here inside the GCU arena. As that one they take 25-18.
Well, I mentioned coming into set number 2, Kyle, that if either team wanted to walk away with a victory here in set number 2, they were going to have to pull away early from their opponents. BYU, of course, taking the first set by 3, 25-22 after a seesaw affair from both offenses. But they went on a 5-0 scoring run early on in this one, and they never really looked back.
No, they did not. So the Lopes got an uphill battle coming their way, down 2-0. But Jack, earlier this week, I was able to catch up with Christian Janke and get to know him a little bit better. So let's all get to know Christian Janke. Hey everybody, I'm Kyle Borg alongside superstar sophomore Christian Janke of men's volleyball, and we're just going to get to know Christian today. So Christian, tell me, what was it like growing up in California?
I mean, it's great. I think especially for volleyball, it's just like kind of the hub of men's volleyball especially. It's a great place to start, and it kind of led me to the path that I'm on now, and I wouldn't want to live anywhere else.
Did you do anything outside of volleyball, play any other sports, have any hobbies?
I mean, my entire life I played basketball. That's kind of what I did up until I think junior year or something like that. I found that my passion was for volleyball, and I was going to carry that on into college, so I chose to switch to that.
So what made you focus specifically on volleyball?
I think the game is just you score every point, or someone scores every single point, and it's less running. I'm big into that. I'm not a big runner. The whole team dynamic was just different than basketball, and I liked it a lot more.
So you were recruited by a lot of different schools, and what made you choose GCU specifically?
I think the atmosphere and the coaches and the team that I already saw there, I could just tell it was where I wanted to be. Walking on a campus, just the way everyone was acting with each other, and just the people at the school in general, it seemed way too much fun not to go.
All right, last question. Favorite volleyball moment so far in your career?
Probably the BYU game.
BYU.
And here, I mean, that was definitely the best game last year. It was the atmosphere, everyone was just going crazy, and it went to 5, and we came out on top, so it was great.
That was getting to know superstar sophomore Christian Janke of men's volleyball. Well, that was Christian Janke. He mentioned in that interview that his favorite GCU moment on his young career was defeating these Cougars here at home last season, and the Lopes down 2-0. Got a long way to go, but looking to complete a comeback and hopefully force a set number 5. Boy, there's only one way to find out. We got about 20 seconds. So, Jack, let's go ahead, check out the upcoming schedule, brought to you by BSN Sports.
Well, baseball is back this weekend, currently winning 2-1 over the Oklahoma State Cowboys in the top half of the second inning, but they'll continue their series against Oklahoma State tomorrow at 2 p.m., followed by more men's volleyball. That will happen at 4 p.m. when the Lopes take on Ottawa, and men's basketball, of course, will end the busy Saturday here in Lope Country as they face Chicago State at 6 p.m. Tune in to every home game right here on GCU TV.
So, Jack, baseball going on right now. You mentioned a 2-1 victory, or 2-1 victory, 2-1 right now in the top of the second inning, against the number 22 ranked Oklahoma State Cowboys. Men's basketball won last night here inside the GCU Arena, took down Kansas City in dramatic fashion, overtime, and of course softball in Texas this weekend. They won their first game. I'm trying to pull up to see if they're winning their second game against Baylor right now, and we'll go ahead, take a very quick look at the Kane State stats update brought to you by Kane State Credit Union. You can see BYU 23-19 favor of the kills. Lopes, that errors category 16-10. Lopes have more total attempts, but BYU's hitting percentage and blocks very good right now. And they have a couple more assists and a few more digs than the Lopes. And talking to Coach Worley before the game, he talked about that hitting percentage number. Right now it's up above 300, and he wanted to try and keep BYU below that number, but unfortunately so far unable to do so. As the Lopes will start us off here in what could be the final set. Up top, Enriquez keeps it alive with his chest, up for Fisher. But kept up now, Asu sends it over. Hughes for Weary now getting in the match. Fisher keeps it alive. And now going to be a lift on the Lopes, and 1-0 ends a good rally, and BYU goes up on top.
Well, this is the last thing you want if you're Coach Worley in that Lopes offense. BYU going ahead early here, trying to go on a bit of a run here early on, looking for the sweep again. The Lopes' last sweep coming in Honolulu. Again, it was their first set loss in set number 1 in the last 3 weeks. Has not been the same Lopes offense that we've seen over the past 5 weeks or so. Coach Worley looking to navigate that offense through set number 3, trying to force a set number 4 here. As once again, that one guy looking to step up here in set number 3. We've seen the offense distribute the ball pretty evenly so far as the Lopes tie it up at 1.
Stuffed by Blazer and Weary, and we are knotted up at 1 apiece. Blazer now, he'll go back to serve. Gardini keeps it up. Stanley, back row, out of bounds. No, they're gonna say hit the back line. Awfully close, 2-1 BYU lead. Gianni for Hughes. McLean blocked. And Hughes and Udall just gonna stare at each other and watch that one hit the floor, and BYU goes up 3-1.
Well, again, the miscommunication there from the Lopes really not helping themselves out, looking for an adjective to use there, Kyle, but the Lopes once again trying to find a way to chip back in this game early on. I know it's still very early on here in set number 3, but the Lopes kind of have to set the tone even with BYU up by 1 early on.
Absolutely, Lopes got to play a near perfect rest of this match to at least force a set number 5 and come away with a victory, as Fisher, he'll serve it away. They'll go back row, clipping the net as it goes through. Eschenberg gonna get the kill, 5-2, or 4-2, BYU. Davide Gardini, he'll head back to serve. Gianni is there, gonna feed Weary. That one's gonna fall. Trevor Weary on the board, he gets a kill, and it's 4-3.
Trevor Weary making his presence felt early on here in set number 3. Could be that X factor for the Lopes that Coach Worley's been looking for. I mean, we've seen Christian Janke take charge with those 5 kills, leading the leaderboards. Camden Gianni looking to make an impact as well with 4 kills. We mentioned Hugo Fisher breaking away early with 3 kills early on in this game. He now has 4. But once again, BYU silencing any glimpse of hope for that Lopes offense, looking to go on an early run here in set number 3 with a massive kill there, as Alex Asu again leading the charge with 9 kills.
5-3 Cougar lead. They have the serve and all of the momentum, and a service ace for the Cougars puts them up 6-3. McLean's gonna get back into the huddle. He couldn't quite run that one down, and it's a 3-point BYU lead, and really starting to feel it now are the Cougars. Udall gets a good pass away. Hughes, Gianni. Out of bounds, no tip, and it definitely looked like it might have got a hand on the way through. Gianni definitely thought it did. And now Janke will come in for Gianni here.
Well, you could definitely see frustrations boiling over for this Lopes offense. You saw Camden Gianni right there questioning the official as he takes a seat for a brief moment. And another scoring run here early for BYU. It's what helped them solidify that win in set number 2, and it's been the service errors that have kept this Lopes offense in this game with at least a glimpse of hope here, as Ian McLean will be back to serve, looking to give the Lopes some life here, at least offensively early on in this set.
Momentum is everything here in this matchup, as you have been able to tell so far, and BYU has all of it right now. It's 8-4, and every time the Lopes seem to have something going, BYU just has an answer.
It's either BYU has an answer or the Lopes again continue to hurt themselves with offensive mistakes, but BYU all over that one, as once again they're looking to seize control here, looking for yet another sweep this season. We've seen many sweeps from BYU this season, coming off that 3-1 win last go around, 2 back-to-back sweeps before that. As they look for 13 straight consecutive wins, they now lead at 9-4, as once again the Lopes continue to put a little too much on some of their hits, trying to chip into this BYU lead, as you see it one more time there.
Keishel back in for Fisher. 9-4 BYU lead. Right at Janke. Hughes, return pass. Janke, he'll find the line on that one, gets that to fall. Lopes back within 4, 9-5 here in a set number 3. BYU is 6-0 on the road this season. Played half their matches on the road and only a few at home. And you could see, and you could hear the reaction from the Lopes fans. That definitely looked like it found that back corner and sat perfectly right there, especially from up here at our angle, Jack. But 10-5 as Fisher almost picked up another ace. Janke gets that one to fall, back within 4. Janke, he'll head back to serve now. Sends that one well long, and 11-6, BYU now regains possession of the serve.
Well, when it rains, it pours if you're the Lopes. You mentioned that play moments ago, Kyle. BYU coming up with the point, even though it looked like that ball was able to stay in for the Lopes. And of course, Christian Janke taking matters into his own hands, really holding nothing back on that last kill to add to his total. Now 7 kills for the sophomore. But just when you think GCU is starting to turn it around, BYU is able to battle back to regain that 4-point advantage. But the Lopes, once again, it looks like it'll be Caleb Blazer back to serve. Again, trying for that last-ditch effort to go on a bit of a scoring run here to erase that 4-point deficit. It ain't going to happen there.
12-7 and another answer from BYU. BYU, again, those answer after answer so far for this Lopes attack. That one gonna go to the back row. Janke can't get it to fall. Sent immediately over in the middle. McLean finding the floor with that one. It's 8-12, and the Lopes looking to get back on a run and get themselves back in this match, as it's 12-8 now. And the Lopes, it's do or die here in this third set.
Well, I think last season it was Alex Shmalev, who was that guy who kind of came out of the woodworks, kind of came out of the bushes, as I used to say, last season for the Lopes, waiting underneath that net and kind of sniping his opponents from out of nowhere. Ian McLean has kind of taken that position from Alex Shmalev here this year, kind of gone under his wing here. Absolutely. This season with Shmalev gone.
And you know what? The Lopes have pretty good backups so far in that middle blocker position. You know, Blazer last year, he didn't play a whole lot towards the end, but in that BYU match was key, and another great job from Enriquez and Quichel, and then the dive by Hughes can't keep it alive. But other than McLean and Blazer, the Lopes also have Kyle Thompson, who they're waiting to get back off that ankle injury he suffered a few weeks ago, and he is dressed tonight. So, of course, Coach Worley going to be cautious with that and making sure he's 100%. So maybe see Kyle Thompson, maybe not, but you know, he was off to a very hot start to start the season before he went down. And, of course, the Lopes, they're definitely a different team with him.
Definitely had a huge game against UC San Diego during opening weekend here inside the GCU Arena, and a big 3-1 win over the Tritons. But of course, like you mentioned, Kyle Thompson, they're down 2-0 here. Would be very interesting to see how Coach Worley is able to utilize him late in this game, given that his team still needs at least 2 more sets here to at least even things up, looking for a win.
That one's stuffed by Hughes and McLean there at the net. Lopes within 3, 13-10, as the Lopes faithful trying to get back into this one here in front of us as the Havocs and the band are ready to go. Weary, service ace, Lopes back within 2. Trevor Weary looking to provide that spark, and he does it with a service ace and a couple of kills as well. And now the Lopes trying to put some pressure back on BYU, and if BYU falls asleep on this Lopes team, they're gonna strike you like a cobra.
Great analogy there, Kyle. I like that. And Trevor Weary.
Enriquez keeps that one alive. Janke, he'll get stuffed, and BYU answer 14-11.
Again, it's been the same mantra all night long. It's been the name of the game for this Lopes offense, just unable to capitalize. When you think momentum's about to strike, BYU takes it right back, snatches it from the Lopes, and they do it in a big way right there. And again, still plenty of volleyball left to be played in this set. The Lopes only down by 3, looking to capitalize from some key mistakes from BYU.
Ian McLean comes in and delivers the hammer, 14-12. Ian McLean, another big kill, and now the Lopes are really trying to get back in this one. They're within 2 now. This is the closest they've been in a long time, as BYU dominated set number 2. And the Lopes had a lot of momentum in set number 1, and an errant pass, but kept alive. Gardini does a good job, and now a hit over the net, and now the Lopes have to capitalize on this free attempt. Blocked. Blazer this time. They're gonna say that hit the floor, so Caleb Blazer, another kill. He's got 3 on 3 attempts, and you have got to continue feeding the big man in the middle, as Ian McLean will head back to serve it away.
Well, not quite a laser from Blazer, more of a floater from Blazer, but again, using those impeccable pair of eyes to able to find the hole, as the Lopes now looking to seize control. But once again, BYU taking advantage.
Big kill to put BYU up 15-13. We got immediate timeout, 2-point BYU lead, and they also have a 2-set advantage. The remainder of set number 3, and possibly more when we come back right here on GCU TV. Back inside the GCU arena, it's 15-13. Number 2 BYU has the lead over the Lopes here in what could be the final set of play inside the GCU arena. Lopes down by 2, but they've been able to go on a couple of big runs and force some BYU errors to really get back in this one. They were down as much as 6 early on here in set number 3.
Well, never say die if you're the Lopes, Kyle. Only down by 2 here in set number 3. Let's take a look at Pastor Tim Griffin in the house here tonight inside the GCU arena. Again, a packed house for GCU athletics. Baseball going on right down the road here on campus, taking on the Oklahoma State Cowboys. Currently with a 2-1 advantage in the bottom half of the second inning, threatening for more with runners on second and third.
Hughes, Quichel, big push, kept alive. Blazer can't quite connect with that. BYU attacks again, right at Quichel. Hughes Janke finding the hole. Christian Janke, 15-14. Lopes within one, and now a big momentum shift, especially if the Lopes can find a way to tie and take the lead.
Well, we mentioned before the Lopes were putting a little too much power on some of their attempts early on. Christian Janke kind of at the forefront of that, but able to hold back there, find the hole, and once again the Lopes within striking distance now, as BYU will once again look to seize control. It seems like every single time things are going right for the Lopes, BYU is right there for the taking.
So it looks like either Blazer or Janke was in the net for the Lopes on that one. BYU back up by 2 as Zach Eschenberg, he'll head back to serve it now with his team up by 2, looking to add on to that one and not relinquish the lead. Hughes outside. Janke forces them to block it out of bounds, and a nice job done by Christian Janke, and at 16-15 he'll head back to serve. Still looking for his first service ace on the night. Normally a very, very dangerous server from that back row, but so far unsuccessful this evening.
Coming off those 2 service aces last go around against the Trojans up in Pasadena, looking for another one right there on the backside. But once again, we mentioned before, Christian Janke putting a little too much relish on that one. And once again, BYU is able to once again reap the rewards.
Yanni Heinen will serve it away for BYU. Trevor Weary's gonna find the floor with that one. Lopes staying within a point, 17-16. And this is where the Lopes have got to capitalize and take advantage. We've been stressing that here through the last set and a half, pretty much. Lopes down by 1, need a pair of set victories to force the all-decisive, all-magical set number 5. That one not gonna get over. Gardini this time, saved. Blazer back for Keichel, it falls. The Lopes have tied it up at 17.
Well, we've talked about David Keichel all season long, was a huge factor last year for the Lopes. Really still looking to get off the schneid so far here this year. That's a huge kill for Keichel, his 4th of the night. And now the Lopes finally looking to complete that comeback trail. But once again, there they are, the Cougars striking.
And guess who? Davide Gardini.
And we mentioned Davide Gardini coming in this one, leading the charge for BYU. Really hasn't been that all impressive so far here tonight. Only has 7 kills, but on 20 total attempts, he's gotten the job done. And of course, Alex Asu really stepping up big for Gabby Fernandez, who we still have not seen in this one so far for the Cougars.
Out of bounds after a good save from Stanley, but tied back up at 18. So we are in for a very exciting, dramatic final few points here to end set number 3. Let's see if the Lopes can get it done, and it all starts. The comeback starts with 1 point at a time, 1 set at a time, and that's how the Lopes have done it thus far. Keichel, he'll serve it away, almost falls. They'll go to the back row, right at Keichel this time. Hughes sets up Janke, but it'll go right into the net. Couldn't quite get that one over, and normally Christian Janke on that play from that back row, very, very dangerous, but can't get that one done there. So 19-18 is the score. BYU with the lead. Gardini is going to be the server for the Cougars. Huge block on David Keichel to regain a 2-point advantage, and the BYU faithful loving it.
Well, it looked like that was Zach Eschenberg there with the rejection. And when this one's all said and done, Kyle, let's say the Lopes are unable to come away with a victory here in set number 3. You got to look at the big picture. You only lost by 2 in set number 1, and again, a back and forth battle so far here in set number 3. Without your best volleyball at hand, like we've seen over the past 5 weeks, the Lopes have played just fine so far here tonight against BYU.
They definitely have, and they're showing it here late in set number 3 as Ian McLean picks up that kill. He'll check out. And now the newly engaged Jack Burton coming in to serve it for the Lopes. So congratulations to Jack. We'll have a little bit of a happy note here in set number 3 for you. Got that information when we walked into the arena today.
Definitely happy news for Jack Burton. Congratulations to him and his new fiancée. As it looks like he might
have to check out now.
Thank you, Jack.
So it looks like Weary's going to be the server. A little bit of confusion from the Lopes, but they get it taken care of. But nonetheless, congratulations, Jack Burton, one more time.
Had to make an appearance here tonight.
Had to make an appearance as BYU has 4 players on their roster that are married. As that one off the chest of Enriquez and sent back over. And now off of the top of the hands of Hughes. And BYU will go up 21-19.
Well, that's the second time we've seen that. Avery utilizing his chest in a big way defensively, but BYU's offense continuing to put the pedal to the metal here against this Lopes defense. As again, they're creeping closer. They could see the finish line here. I think Cougars Nation could see it as well. Only 4 points away now from that promised land.
Janke gets the Lopes back on track, 20-21 now. As Ian McLean, he'll be the server this time for GCU. Down by 1, looking to test BYU here on this service. That one gonna go back outside off of the top of the block, and it gets out of bounds, and BYU takes a 2-point advantage.
It's got to be very frustrating if you're Coach Worley in this offense. You're this close. You're down by 1 point, now down by 2 late in this set. But one impressive drive here offensively could change all matters for the Lopes if they can force a set number 4 with the momentum on their side.
Janke, strong push, finds the line, and it drops. And the Lopes back within 1. And it's 22-21 as Christian Janke will go back to serve it for the Lopes.
Well, again, another Air Janke appearance here late in set number 3. He's definitely taken the charge for the Lopes. I mentioned they needed that one player to step up. It's been Christian Janke leading with those 11 kills.
Huge block that time. They're going to go back outside. Stuff at the net. Blazer and Keyshell and the Lopes knotted up at 22.
Well, the combination of Caleb Blazer and David Keyshell making all matters better here for the Lopes in set number 3 as they look to take their first lead and possibly force a set number 4.
Blocked again. This time Caleb Blazer does it by himself, and the Lopes are 2 points away from forcing a set number 4. 23-22, timeout Cougars. And Jack, what a run for the Lopes there.
Well, finally, look, I think the one thing that we saw here in set number 3 was GCU climb back and then BYU be right there, able to snipe it away from them. But GCU finally getting over that bridge. They're finally getting over that hump to take their first lead here in set number 3. Will they be able to put that nail in the coffin and force a set number 4? There's only one way to find out.
There is only one way to find out. You got to stay here. We're going to take a quick commercial break and have the remainder of set number 3 when we come back right here on GCU TV.
Across the bearded desert to where the mountains touch the sky. This is Sanderson Ford country, where Arizona's pride. Sanderson Ford country, built on serving you. Sanderson Ford, satisfaction in everything we do. We're Arizona's pride. Sanderson Ford.
Welcome back to the newly re-energized GCU Arena, where the Lopes have their first lead in a very long time. It's 23-22. Grand Canyon with the lead, looking to crawl their way back into this one. 2 points away. Heath Hughes at the service line. Lopes on a back, blocked by Blazer and Keyshell, and then Blazer got a solo to put the Lopes up by 1. Hughes sends it over. And a bad set, but Eschenberg is able to capitalize, somehow finding a hole in the Lopes defense, and we're knotted up at 23. So now we'll play first team to score back-to-back points.
Later in this game, as we get, Zach Eschenberg has really been that key factor offensively for BYU. Now leads the charge with 10 kills after only having 3 kills going into set number 2. And Christian Janke once again putting in the power.
Christian Janke kill number 12. He's not having the most efficient night, but he's certainly come alive here in set number 3. He's hitting just 0.065% on 31 total attacks, but he's got 12 kills to lead both teams and all kill leaders here, and he'll go back to the service line to possibly end it for the Lopes. And he cannot. It goes right into the net and another service error, and we're knotted up at 24.
Well, I was going to say, Kyle, for the first time tonight, it looked like the Havocs were going to outdo Cougars Nation, but once again, the story of the night for the Lopes, just unable to get over that hump, as Christian Janke once again putting a little too much oomph into that one. The trajectory was not on target, as that one once again deflects off the net, and once again BYU with another opportunity to take what would be their 3rd lead of this set.
Outside Keyshell, it's gonna drop! David Keyshell gets it to fall, and the Lopes again, 1 point away now, 25-24. We are at set point, and the only time last season that it went to extra points, the Lopes were able to win that set 27-25. Lopes in it again, as it looks like Petchel is gonna come in for Blazer, and Petchel's gonna be the server. And a different look now for GCU, as BYU hasn't seen a lot of Tanner Petchel.
Kind of a wild card for...
He was key last season. He had 55 assists against his BYU team here in Phoenix. That one gonna feed Gardini. And you hear the eruption from the BYU faithful, and where do you go when you need an answer? You go right to Davide Gardini, and he delivers. Knotted up at 25, as Alex Asu, who has a pair of aces, will go back to serve it now for BYU. So we're in a dogfight here in what could be the final set. That one at Janke. Hughes for McLean, blocked. Janke is there. Kept alive, back set for Keyshell. Kept alive by BYU, and now BYU takes advantage, and it's match point Cougars, 26-25, on a great effort from both sides. And now BYU Nation once again on their feet and louder than they've been all night long in a timeout. Coach Worley, 26-25. We're going to take a very short break here on GCU TV. We'll be right back with the rest of set number 3.
GCU helps you stay focused on staying purpose-driven. They give you the tools to find what your purpose truly is. Once I got out here, I kind of had an idea, but I was able to find myself as an artist. My name is Joseph, and I'm earning my Bachelor of Arts degree at GCU.
There's thunder in all of us. Come find your purpose at Grand Canyon University.
Welcome back inside the GCU Arena, where it is a dogfight here in set number 3. 26-25 right now, match point in favor of BYU, 2-0 for the Cougars. Lopes looking to get a set and possibly force some momentum. Lopes had 2 set points early on. BYU had an answer, and then an answer right there on that nice rally from both sides. And Jack, that's why BYU is number 2 in the nation.
Well, I wouldn't necessarily say that BYU nor Grand Canyon's offense have played as efficiently as they've wanted to so far here tonight, Kyle. I mean, Zach Eschenberg really stepping up for BYU's offense with those 10 kills. Christian Janke leading the charge for the Lopes. As you've mentioned, Christian Janke not really playing his best game tonight despite leading the charge for that Lopes offense. It's been all about momentum tonight, and BYU has been able to capitalize on more mistakes from the Lopes than vice versa.
Hughes for Keyshell, knotted up again at 26, and we got a deuce, Jack. Here it's set number 3.
They're definitely not going away quietly.
The Lopes never do, and BYU never goes away quietly as well. So both sides giving it all they got here in set number 3. This set, if this match continues, is going to go a long way for the Lopes. Keyshell gets that one over. They're going to feed Gardini out of bounds. They're going to say that got touched, and Coach Worley says it didn't, and he's going to have a word with the official. And now Keyshell's going to come over, and the referee's going to send him away.
Definitely going to be the turning point there. Gardini making matters there with the official. as they're going to call a timeout now.
So we're going to stick around after a timeout by Coach Worley again. 27-26, so a big call on that one as that one sailed out of play. But a micro touch, if anything, by the Lopes defense and block attempt there. So 27-26 is the score. But Jack, the Lopes have come to life here in set number 3 as they did throughout set number 1. And you got to think set number 1 was really a draining set for the Lopes after dropping that one 25-22.
Well, again, only losing that one by 3. I've mentioned before, and I'll say it again, the Lopes have played spectacularly well tonight against the number 2 team in the nation, despite not having their best volleyball on that court. And then you talk about that last play, Kyle, could be an entire game shifter, a set shifter for BYU if they're able to capitalize here with Gardini getting the love from the nearby official, getting the tip called. I believe it was off of David Keyshell to give BYU that 1-point advantage as they once again look to walk away with the sweep here, sending Cougars Nation back to BYU with a sweep. And again, coming off that big loss last season after being up 2-1 going into set number 4, the Lopes were able to battle back and win when they were the number 11th ranked team in the nation. It's going to feel good if they're able to come away with this game-winning point right here.
As it is Davide Gardini for BYU with a match point yet again, their second now. That one a rocket, kept alive by Hughes, and then it's gonna fall as Udall and Weary don't communicate, and it's gonna hit the floor after a great hustle from Heath Hughes to run that ball down, and BYU comes away with the sweep.
Well, that's going to be the silver lining in this one, Kyle. When it rained, it poured for the Lopes. Poor communication on the final play of the game. Cole Udall, again, showing a little miscommunication there with Ian McLean, and BYU, despite not having their best volleyball, we mentioned GCU's offense not really showing their best volleyball here tonight after completing 5 weeks of dominance here this season. Will pick up their first loss in nearly 5 weeks. BYU able to come away after a 25-22 set number 1 victory. Back and forth, mano-a-mano throughout that one. And then, of course, they went on that 5-0 scoring run halfway through set number 2 and never really looked back. We mentioned Davide Gardini coming in this one hot. He finished with 9 kills, 24 total attempts. Zach Eschenberg, of course, coming on strong in that third set, finishing with 10 total kills. That led the charge for the Cougars, but again, this one back and forth. BYU was up big early on in set number 3. Nothing really going for that Lopes offense, but they were able to chip away, able to nod this one up late. But again, the final keynote in this one, Kyle, this Lopes offense just unable to communicate late.
So BYU will advance their win streak to 13 and go to a perfect 13-0 on the season and 3-0 in MPSF conference play. The Lopes fall to 9-3 and pick up their first loss in conference play. They are 2-1 in the MPSF. Thank you for tuning in. The Lopes will be right back tomorrow inside the Antelope Gymnasium to take on the Ottawa Spirit at 4 p.m. right here on GCU TV. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, and to subscribe to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/GCU. For everybody here at GCU TV, for Jack O'Hara, I'm Kyle Borg saying thank you for spending your Valentine's Day with us. Have a great rest of your evening. Enjoy your long weekend. Have a great night, and as always, go Lopes.